Support everything we do at MWP News by visiting ko-fi.com/MWP News. Every donation helps us stay independent. For breaking entertainment news, reviews, and more, check out MWPnews.com. If you love games, head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@MWPNewsGaming for reviews and gameplay. Links for all of this will be in the show notes, as well as links to the other podcasts. Thank you for your continued support. Good morning, and welcome to, evening by the time it shows up, and welcome to, Backlog Files. I am Adam. So there are two games I wanted to talk about, because Gamescom Opening Night Live was last night, and I didn't watch it, but there was one game announced there, and there's another game that I think you know where this is going, because we've talked about it on here before, several times. Anytime they talk about it, we talk about it here. But let's start with Lego Batman. As you know, or maybe don't, I'm a pretty big fan of the Lego games. I think they're solid collectathons. I think they're fun. That's the thing, is that it's like I just played through Lego Star Wars, the complete saga, not the Skywalker saga. The complete saga, the collection of the original 2 Lego Star Wars games. And it's just like, it's a fun little time killer. And I'll probably get the Lego Batman game on Steam at some point in the near future. And it's just like, they're all kind of similar, they're all kind of the same, and they've been growing over the years and expanding and becoming, something bigger and really, I think that in terms of, game franchises that have had the most solid growth, I think you could make the argument that the Lego franchise has done a great job of that, by growing as the capabilities of systems get better. It's like, look at the first Lego Star Wars game, and look at where we are now with Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. I haven't played Horizon yet, partially because I haven't played Horizon regular, but look at it that way and be like, how far has this come since we've done that? And it's actually pretty impressive. But all of that said, what we're here to talk about with this is the new Lego Batman game looks really interesting. It looks like an homage to all the eras of Batman. It looks like it has the combat and detective systems from Arkham Asylum. And it's got that open world that Skywalker Saga did. I think this is a really good mix. And I think to an extent, this is probably the way to go for this franchise. Because if you did Lego DC superheroes with this, I think that'd be too big. And I think that part of what made Lego Star Wars work was that it was fairly limited to what Star Wars characters can do. So there are very few characters that fly. Excuse me. Or anything like that. So it made it kind of easy to lay out the worlds. I think that if you were to do Lego DC superheroes or Lego Marvel superheroes in that same style, it would be a little bit harder. And I think that's kind of why they're making the smart move here of sticking to just Batman. The other thing that I find kind of interesting about this is how good the game looks. Like that thing at the end where it's the Dark Knight Rises with with Bane and him stepping on the Lego. It's like that Lego looks fairly real. I think the graphics of the Lego games have gotten incredibly good, and I would say arguably needlessly so. It's probably not something they needed to do. I don't think I needed photorealistic Legos. And now that we have them, I'm like, oh, that's neat, I guess. But look, I'm gonna play this game when it comes out. I will definitely play this game when it comes out. But it's one of those things where it's like, let's see what it ends up being. And then we'll take it from there. But based on what we've seen in this first trailer and just the general gameplay we've seen, it looks like it's going to be something incredible. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was Pokemon Legends ZA, which we're going to spend most of our time talking about today. So, I had my misgivings back in July about Legends ZA. This weekend we had Worlds was this weekend, so since World Championships happened, they had a demo on the floor. So let's take all of this with a grain of salt, because it's going to be like when you see, like, early response to Marvel movie is overwhelmingly positive, and you're like, oh, cool, okay. But keep in mind, Marvel packs the, it's like when a politician is doing an event and they try to pack as many supporters into the event as possible. Like, that's the big thing that they don't really tell you about town halls and stuff, is that the handlers who are setting up these town halls will go out of their way to find as many friendly people as they possibly can. Which is why if you hear boos at a town hall, it's probably a little bit disproportionate to how many people actually don't like him, because it's like, the people who really don't like him are going to show up to boo. The people who just, who like them are much lower, because if they liked them, they would be there as the quote-unquote friendly crowd. So all of that said, when we look at, what Pokemon Worlds is, it's the big Pokemon convention every year. They have it in Anaheim this year. It's gonna be it's the World Championships. They have hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world come to this, and they're diehard fans who are willing to go to this event. And therefore, these people are going to definitely be biased in their opinion of this game. And that's what we take into consideration. And I did see some breakdowns from news outlets. I saw Variety had a breakdown. I saw Sports Illustrated had a breakdown, because they have an esports section. And they were talking about the implications of this for possible esports, depending on how well the game runs. And then I saw the video they put up themselves, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, where it's this video where they show off, they show off how the 4-player battle mode works. And I think what we need to take into consideration is that the Pokemon Company has been burned in recent years by negative fan reaction. Now, has it impacted sales? I don't think so, but they know that there is a strong community on social media who does not like change and does not like adjustments. Like, the idea of, Dexit was something that I remember what game was the first one that had Dex? Was it Sword and Shield was the first one that had Pokemon missing from the Pokédex? Like, I remember when that happened, people were going fucking nuts. Because, like, why are not all the Pokemon here? And it's like, it's more about, like, the meta for competitive play, and it's just like, if we keep all the Pokemon in, we gotta keep upping the scale. So it's kind of like Dexit was to Pokemon what Link monsters in their initial form were to Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it's like, the meta of Yu-Gi-Oh! Became so out of control with Extra Deck that Link came in to kind of limit Extra Deck. And then that was just completely panned, and then they got rid of that. But all of this is to say that, they know, and then there's the whole thing with with Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. There's the whole like, anytime they do anything wrong, and then let alone the reaction to Scarlet and Violet, which rightfully that game has major performance issues, and apparently the Switch 2 iteration runs perfectly, and it's what the game should have been, which again raises questions about why you're developing a game for a console that doesn't exist. Like, you got to develop a game with the intent that it can play on the console you're developing it for, not for the next console with an upgrade and the processing power to handle it. But I digress. So I think that there was a little bit of gun shyness to show off this complete upending of gameplay in in a Pokemon Presents presentation, without letting people get their hands on it first. And I think that that's what led to the Presents presentation being that 20-minute filibuster and then Mega Dragonite. What this tells me is that they were concerned that people were afraid. And I think, and I completely understand why they're making this shift. I feel that I like turn-based RPGs. I'll play a turn-based RPG. You know, I like Final Fantasy. I like I like Pokemon. I have no problem with a good turn. I loved Sea of Stars a few years ago. I love a good turn-based RPG. The problem with this was you are taking something that has been the same for 29 years and completely turning it on its head and replacing it with something entirely different. And what that means is a fan base that's notorious for not liking change is going to have to put up with one of the, if not the single biggest possible change you can make to this franchise. And that's something that I can understand them being gun-shy about. You don't want to show that off and then have the negative press take off about it or the negative reaction take off about it without having to let people have the chance to try it for themselves. And I completely understand that. But it seems people really like it. It's responsive. It adds added weight to status moves, which is something that, like, status moves are useful in competitive play, or if you're playing in a game like Radical Red or Elite Redux, something like that. Like, they matter there, not so much when you're playing by yourself, because, like, you can overpower pretty quickly and you can just tank your way through, which is the way I've played Pokemon since I was 5 years old. Like, status doesn't do damage, bitch, move out of my lineup. But I just tank my way through. I'll spread out some moves so I can get some good type effectiveness going, but I'll just tank my way through. And that is kind of the big issue with where I am on this. I wish we had more for the general public to see about what this gameplay loop is going to look like. It sounds to me like it's the battle system kind of from Marvel Heroes Omega, where you have moves that have cooldowns and you use them, and it's kind of like Battle Royale. It's like an ARPG. You have to just fight and use the moves, and then once they've cooled down, you can use it again and again, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of how I feel this probably is, and if that's the case, I think that's fine, and we'll see how it actually plays. But I feel like this is something that, like, once you do this and once you get the positive result, we need an actual gameplay trailer of it, and not a sample of the online battle mode that may or may not work, because, again, the Switch's servers are run on PlayStation 2s, and an old Linksys modem from 15 years ago. It's something that, like, you need to come out and show us, like, hey, this is what the battles are going to look like, here's how they're going to work. Because the thing is, too, it's like, if I got to go into this game and adjust to this learning curve, I want to kind of know what I'm getting into. Not that it's going to stop me from buying it, but it's something that I want to, like, see what the difference is now and get to know it. And I think the other thing that's really interesting about introducing this new system here is that I would bet this is where the franchise is going from now on. And I think that this is, like, yeah, I made the joke when they announced Champions back in, February, that, yeah, this is Nintendo announcing their next big lawsuit against Showdown, or the developers of Showdown. But, like, that's not all this is. It's also, it's also the, if they're moving to this more action-oriented version of events. If they're moving to this more, this slightly different, this very different battle method, like, how is that going to work for tournament play? Because if you're going into Gen 10 and it's going to be like, hey, we're basically rebooting the franchise, I would be not surprised if Generation 10 was a ground-up remake of Red and Blue, but entirely open world. Like an entirely open world Kanto Johto, and you get to explore both in their entirety, and it's just this giant 2-nation world. Like, I think that's what you do. Is you do that with this new battle system, and you're like, hey, we're gonna bring you in with this, and it's like you bring in a fuck ton of new Pokemon too. Like, you don't do like they did in the traditional remakes. You do it like that, and I think that's how you honor the 30th anniversary. Or for the 30th anniversary, you do something even bigger. I think you have to go big for the 30th anniversary. And my apprehension about this is that they have spent a good amount of time on Legends ZA. Like, they have spent an inordinate amount of time on Legends ZA, and that's been kind of the entire thing they've been working on for 2 years now. But what if that's not the case? If this game comes out and is short, I think what this tells me is they're working on something a lot bigger. And I think that's going to be the big thing. And I think that there is writing on the wall that this game could be short. There's writing on the wall that this game could be not as big as we're expecting it to be. Because number one, the whole game takes place in one city. That's one thing here, is that this whole game takes place entirely in Lumiose City. Which, like, yeah, Lumiose City is going to be bigger than it was in X and Y, but how much bigger can you possibly make it and have it be satisfying? Especially if you have to navigate a city. Like, that's something that people, especially younger audiences, could get turned off by and get frustrated by if everything looks kind of the same. One of the real successes of the real success of Legends Arceus was Open Zone, which was like you didn't have to walk through everything to get to the furthest away areas because Jubilife was kind of off to the side. And I think that's something that they need to take into consideration here, is that it's like, what is the overall world going to be? And I think that what we're going to end up with is this game is going to come out and it's going to be shorter than we anticipate. I would say there's a non-zero chance this game is shorter than there's a non-zero chance this game is shorter than Arceus was. And if that's the case, what does that mean for next year's game? And when we review, we're going to talk about all of this. We're definitely reviewing this game in October. The next week, we're definitely talking about what this means for Generation 10. What carries over, what doesn't carry over, what, all of that kind of stuff. But I digress. I'm optimistic about this. I'm optimistic about the future. We will see what ends up happening. I'm more on about this game than I was before Worlds began. And I think that's more than I expected coming out of. Oh, there's going to be a demo at Worlds. I was like, my thought was, there's going to be a demo at Worlds, and they're going to show off something new. It's going to be a new, a new Mega, or a new Zygarde form, or a new or the new form of Xerneas and Yveltal, or something like that. But again, we're still in this place where we are not tremendously removed from the release of this game, and there's still very little actually revealed about it compared to Legends Arceus had. And I think that that's kind of interesting. And it puts us in an interesting place. Or it's just a sign that they don't have too much to show us. And this is very much like, this is us perfecting, like, if there's a non-zero chance that when it comes to Legend ZA, the point of Legend ZA is the same as, like, what was it? There was a Metal Gear game that was like, this is what Metal Gear is going to feel like in this engine. Or better yet, Kingdom Hearts 0.2, which was bundled in with the console remake of 3Ds. This is what the Kingdom Hearts 2 battle system is going to look like, and how it's going to feel. And this is us just, this is us getting ready to use this engine. And in a sense, it's what remakes are for a lot of companies. It's like, hey, this is us getting used to using our engine in this new space and getting used to haptic feedback and all the new features of the console. I think that if that's what ZA ends up being, that could be interesting, or that could just be me coping in advance. But we'll see. Our next episode will be next week. I think we're going to talk about Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, because that video is up on YouTube next week, I think. I gotta look at my schedule, but probably. But until then, have a great rest of your week.